Back in November, when I was looking for pattern ideas for the November pattern of the month, I did some analysis of some stained glass patterns from this book, The Grammar of Ornament by Owen Jones, in the medieval section. And I came across this one here, which I liked, and the only information about it in the book is that it comes from, it says Southwell Church, Nottinghamshire. And this is it. This is Southwell Minster, not Southwell, as I'd originally thought. And it's near Nottingham, not in Nottingham. Parts of the building date to sort of early 1100s, but it's been added to over the years. It's got some very old parts, and then some Norman parts, and then some later medieval additions. And I went to go and have a look, looking for patterns, looking for this particular piece of stained glass because I was interested, but also any other patterns that the building might hold. I looked at lots of the stained glass windows in the building and I found that many of them were really contemporary. This one was from the 90s. It's really beautiful, but it made me wonder if the piece of glass I was looking for had been replaced. There's some lovely old parts to the church. This is the chapter house, which is where they would have held meetings. They've got area representatives, seats for all of the different districts. And that's where I found this piece of stained glass. It was in some really big windows that are mostly clear glass, which made me think that actually these aren't original, and spoke to the stewards on duty who said, yes, there's little bits of medieval glass that have sort of been set in the windows, but when and where I wasn't sure, and they didn't know either. So this is the reference from the book. And then this is a photo that I took from the chapter house at Southwell. And I can see one major difference, which is that it's rotated 45 degrees. It makes me wonder when it was reset and when it was turned around. Or maybe it wasn't turned round and it was just published differently in the book. I'm not really sure. It'd be interesting to know if any stained glass experts have worked it out. The first thing that I did was actually before I visited the church, and I did a pen and ink sketch of this window. This is something I want to do more of in 2026, just more simple sketches in black and white, and I plan to document them over on my second YouTube channel, which I have completely neglected for over a year. And then I decided I wanted to make a watercolour version that would be a partner for the piece of stained glass design that I did for November's pattern of the month. So I made my design the right size for the watercolour paper that I wanted to trace it onto. Got the basic outlines of the shapes and then started transferring the design. Now I was doing this based off the reference from the book, but as I started tracing it I realised that actually I wanted to reflect what I'd found in the Minster. So having just got the outline in, I was able to quickly take the tracing paper off, swizzle it round 45 degrees and have a piece that the patterns are going to be they're going to be taken from the reference in the book because they're a bit clearer in there, but the direction of it would represent what I'd found in real life at the Minster. Although I plan to use completely different colours, it's not necessarily going to be an accurate representation. It's my interpretation of it. So having got the outlines all in place, I got out the piece that I'd done for November's pattern of the month, and just because I wanted to double check which colours I'd used, and so that if I do this as a partner piece, they sort of work together. I was just double checking which pen I'd used and which palette of colours. I decided it was a 0.5 dark grey fine liner. So then I could go around the outlines of the big shapes with that dark grey pen. And then once I've got that structure all in place, it's time to move on to some of the details. I used a light pencil to put in roughly where I thought the details would go, and then slightly correct that when I go over with the pen. You can use the pencil really lightly and delicately, just to kind of roughly sketch in, especially where these curvy leaves go. And then when I go in with the pen, I can smooth and finesse them. Once I think I've got enough line work detail in there, then I'll put the pen down and switch to some watercolour. This is the same palette that I used for the previous painting. Just need to refresh some of the raw sienna because that goes very quickly, and start painting. I'm sort of approaching this by painting in sections. I'm not really sure what colours I want to use in different sections yet, but I know that I want to use some layering to get some interesting tones. Painting in sections means that I just need to make sure that each section is dry before I paint the one next to it to avoid the colours running together, unless that's something I want. In this case I want to avoid greens, so I'm using a lot of blue and a lot of yellow, and I want to avoid mixing them because I want the blue and the yellow to kind of stay separate, whereas I'm also using some purple, and that can mix with the yellow absolutely fine, because the purple and the yellow will cancel each other out, creating some neutral tones. But if this indigo that I'm using mixed with the raw sienna, I'd get a green, and that's what I want to avoid in this painting. I ended up painting quite a few of the background areas in light and slightly darker washes of this raw sienna. I could have painted it all in one go, but it's easier to work in smaller sections. Plus it allows me to decide as I go along which colours are going to be for which bits. I don't intend to keep all of these yellow. You'll see as we go along that I intend to layer colours over them, so we get some lighter and darker areas. Mixing together some permanent rose with my indigo gives me a kind of variety of different purples that I can use on top of the yellow, and that will give me sort of some nice muted grey tones. In places there'll be blue greys, in places there'll be pink greys, and that's what I want. I want a variety of colours. I can use the same mix of indigo with a little bit of permanent rose to give me some really dark areas that will allow me to add more detail. And then I use a nice small brush, this one's a size 4, to go in and paint the backgrounds around all of my little leaf shapes. This bit is a little bit fiddly and it takes a while. Just got to take your time, keep moving the paint around and using those fine lines that you've put in as a kind of, it's almost like a colouring page. As the paint's dry, I've used quite light layers, and they can quite often be quite muted and pale, and so I want to add depth and interest by going over some of those layers with some darker colours. So I've decided this bit in the centre needs to be a lot more vibrant, and so I'm adding in some more redder purples and adding in some extra layers of purple so that I get much more definition in this area. In places I'm going in with spots of just pure permanent rose over the top of the purple that's layered over the top of the yellow. Should give me some really interesting sort of plummy colours. And then I do the same sort of thing in other areas, just going in to add different layers, to add depth and interest to the painting. As I keep going, I keep adding to the depth and the layers of the colours until I'm happy that it's looking as interesting and vibrant as I want it to. So here is my final piece, inspired by that, the reference book, but also from my visit to Southwell Minster. I really want to do more visits to places this year to see patterns in situ. And here it is with its partner, which was from a piece of stained glass from Strasbourg. I haven't seen that one in real life. So thanks very much for watching today. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I hope that I'll be able to bring you many more pattern videos in 2026. So happy pattern painting and drawing, and I will see you again very, very soon. Thanks, bye-bye.